A little confused, you haven't got your timings wrong. We're going to kickstart tonight with the F1 Esports Pro drivers, and then we will have the virtual Grand Prix. So much action on the way. I know that you are going to absolutely love it. And I'm glad to say, joining me on the desk this evening, I have Sky F1 presenter Natalie Pinkham joining a bit of the fun and the sim world. I know you've been enjoying the races. What's impressed you that you've seen?
I've been absolutely delighted to be here, not least because it's the first time I've been out of the house for a month. This is incredible. I'm actually seeing other human beings. No, I'm really impressed with the esports racing. It's been fantastic. The graphics have blown my mind. I had an interview with the Codemasters race director the other day, Lee Mather, and he was explaining to me that this current cycle's been in development for the last couple of years, obviously been around since 2010. But looking at it, it's like you're watching a normal race, you know, like a race at Albert Park. It's astonishing. And like most motorsport fans, I'm craving seeing some racing again. And this is going a fix. Yeah, indeed. And obviously we've got the best of the best competing tonight. These are the pro esports drivers going up there. When we look at the grid, looking at the Alfa Romeo team, Daniel Beresny unfortunately didn't finish in the race at Albert Park, which was for the Vietnam Grand Prix. Obviously, I know people know, but the 2019 game doesn't have the Vietnam Grand Prix in it. But a brilliant race. Any of these drivers stand out for you? The obvious with David Tornitzer and Rasmussen, but... Yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing them race tonight. And the Iceman, the closest thing that you've got to our Kimi Räikkönen in terms of chat, but yeah, he's special. He's got some serious talent. Last year's champ, obviously, David Tornitzer, and really looking forward to seeing the superstar Brendan Lee back. Obviously, good quali in Australia, but a big crash in lap 1. It'd be interesting to see if he can bring his form tonight. Yeah, indeed. And was there any sort of surprise drivers when you saw it that really kind of stood out for you and what they achieved in the race? Do you know what really struck me was just how close it is. It's astonishing that the whole grid is separated by just 0.7 of a second. I mean, that's crazy margins, and the level of talent and skills is just exceptional, and that's, I really think, what's drawn me into it. And I think, you know, given the circumstances we find ourselves under globally, the big explosion has been in esports for obvious reasons, and it's so exciting to be here tonight to also just show people what it's all about. Have a peek into this world, because it will have you hooked. Indeed. Well, listen, as I said, great to have you on board with the team tonight. Now, it did happen 2 weeks ago, the Pro Exhibition. Here's a reminder of what happened in that race.
The F1 Esports race about to get underway, and it's a pretty decent start from Freddie Rasmussen on pole position in the Red Bull. David Tornitzer alongside him on the run down into turn 1. Veers goes to the outside at the first corner in the Haas. Does he pull it off? They're still side by side coming down towards turn 3. Bit of front wing flying from someone. Veers to the outside again at turn 3. Can't do anything about it. He needs to be careful because he's got Enzo Benito right behind him in the other Ferrari. Brendan Lee has got up into 5th position, but then spins. I think that was the Mercedes facing backwards. Brendan Lee plummets down the order. Out onto the run towards turn 13. Is Donoso going to defend? He certainly is. Making Veers go the long way round, and Veers is going to try and go the long way round. What a brilliant move. Floris Veers waiting no time, and he's up into 6th position. But now Freddie Rasmussen and Enzo Benito pit, so we're about to see the battle for the race lead. Can Floris Veers get involved in the fight? So Rasmussen holds the lead, Veers is 2nd, Tornitzer 3rd.
Still late on the brakes and looking for the position. That is bold, and that is brilliant stuff from Longay to move up to 5th.
These guys are really racing hard. It's all the battle for 4th place. Oh, Benito's gone wide! Longay's through up into 4th place, Blakely up into 5th. Benito drops down to 6th position. Freddie Rasmussen wins the race. Tornitzer across the line in 2nd, 3rd for Floris Veers, 4th across the line for Nicholas Longay after a brilliant race.
So there you have it then. That was all the action from the Melbourne Albert Park for the Vietnam Grand Prix. As you can see, the winner there, Freddie Rasmussen, David Tornitzer, really hotting up. They're kind of the sort of the Lewis Hamilton, Verstappen, for the Vettel battles that are going on there. Was there anybody that stood out for you in terms of their performance in that particular race, Natalie? Yeah,
I mean, you'd have to say Lucas Blakely had a fantastic race going from P15 right up to P5. And Bono Huis, the new signing for Mercedes, P18. It made up 10 places, did it? Yeah. For P8? Fantastic. There he is.
I was incredibly impressed with Nicholas Longay's performance, the new Renault driver moving across from Red Bull. But obviously, Albert Park was happening there. Now we move across to Shanghai this evening. Obviously, you're obviously going to miss being there, as everyone is with the whole race season as well. But obviously, this is an exciting Grand Prix to go to.
It really is. Yeah, I've been to the Chinese Grand Prix many times. It's quite an intimidating place to go. They've got this huge stadium, which takes just one stand alone is 30,000 spectators. It takes about 200,000 spectators and 16 turns. It's a really fast circuit, plenty of opportunities for overtaking, one of the longest straights in Formula One. But it's cool. I mean, it's got so much about it, and I know that all the drivers love it, so they'll enjoy driving it tonight. I know that it's only, 25% race distance, so 14 laps, is that?
Yeah, and they've got 18-minute qualifier. This is how the format will work tonight for everybody. Like Natalie says, 25% race. Damage is on. We've obviously been watching the virtual Grand Prix where those drivers, damage isn't on, so they can finish the race. But if anything happens, it's kind of like the real life.
Absolutely. There are consequences if there's any kind of contact, and, you know, that's how it should be.
Yeah.
Isn't it, frankly?
These are the best
Pay
of the best.
price. Yeah, they really are, and they will take this very seriously, but yeah, no margin for error.
And are you expecting, obviously we've got qualifying to go first, but you expect another battle between Rasmussen and Tonitsa?
Well, I think the one thing that's really struck me about this is just how close the grid is. So, you know, people can spring surprises, and that's what I'm most looking forward to. But you're right, those two do seem to have separated themselves at the top of the pecking order. So, yeah, good battle on our hands.
OK, well, listen, talking of surprises, bit of a surprise in the commentary tonight. Normally, where you're sat, Natalie, I have the one and only Mr. Matt Gallagher, but apparently he's up in the comms area tonight. Join us, Matt Gallagher, and of course, Alex Jakes, who will be up there. Gentlemen, are you looking forward to a bit of Shanghai action?
Oh, can't wait. Can't wait at all. Really looking forward to this one. And I'm not the only one up here because, Matt, I believe this is one of your favourite circuits.
Oh, it absolutely is. What a track. Shanghai International Circuit. It's my favourite play in the game. It's my favourite watching as well. It's I feel like it's an unsung hero. Not many people say go to China as one of their go-to favourites, but for me, I'm not scared.
That's great. It's very bold. But obviously, Matt, this is your first time commentating. We know how much you love F1, and I know Alex does as well. But I think I saw in your tweet, moving from a potato mic now to the real deal. How are you feeling?
Oh, it's incredible. I can hear my voice now crisp. Yeah, it's really good. It's awesome just to be here. It's not my first time commentating, Tom. I have been a third wheel once or twice. But in terms of being the second man to this incredible Alex Jakes, you know, I'm privileged to be here, and I can't wait to see the racing action unfold.
All right, well, listen, gentlemen, we'll leave you with the qualification and probably let us know who you're looking forward to seeing race tonight.
Absolutely. I mean, we've had a lot of chat already, Matt, about this combination of Tonitsa and Rasmussen. And not only were they very, very impressive last time out, racing all the way for the major positions, but they were also the top two 1 year ago in the esports race around this very circuit. But it's a very wet circuit that we've got at Shanghai International.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't usually see much rain, well, in my experience anyway, around this track. It doesn't usually heavy rain when you have it on dynamic, but we have got a lot of rain, heavy wets on all the drivers and on the drivers, on the cars. But as you say, you know, it's going to be very close. Will we see Rasmussen and Tonitsa and those guys, the favourites, back up there? They say in real life Formula One that heavy rain kind of evens the playing field. Will we see that again in qualifying? We're still waiting to see any laps set right now as everyone's on their out laps.
Well, this completely changes things then. This is going to be really interesting to see how the drivers adapt in the wet conditions, who reacts best, how many laps have they put on. We know that everyone, this is the cream of the crop, this is the very best there is in terms of esports, but how much in terms of those mega hours that they put in, have they put in these conditions? They're going to have to adapt, and they're going to have to adapt around a circuit that really does have so many key traction areas.
Absolutely. This is going to be very tricky indeed. And as you say, I think being a league racer from many, many years ago, I'm terrible now, but when I used to race, I never used to practice in heavy rain. It's boring, it's harder, it's very difficult. So I don't think these guys would have put in as much practice for heavy rain, especially around China. If it was, you know, a track from the past like Malaysia, you'd definitely be practicing for heavy rain conditions. But China, you know, this is so difficult. How long turn one is, or feels like anyway, in the dry, How about that in heavy rain? It must feel like they're there for about half an hour going around turn one. But Tanica right now on pole position, Ferrari 1-2 in fact. So it's going to be interesting. We don't actually know what the conditions are going to be like over these next 12 minutes 50. We're going to have to use the screen as our guide, because if it starts to improve, we will see those times tumble as Daniele Haddad takes pole position by a second, which would suggest that either everybody else has made mistakes or the track might be slightly improving already.
And this is the difficult way. Which way do you go with this? As Lucas Blakely goes fast as anyone, and we're going to see these times tumble as the drivers get more and more confident. But one mistake, straying out onto that white line, and you could find yourself at the very back of the pack. You cannot afford to not be going forwards in this qualifying session, which we have 12 minutes left of. Racing point 1-2 at the moment. Blakely ahead of Haddad, and then we have Cedric Tomei, who's just put in a 1:46.0. And sometimes in these sessions, in the real thing, you will see drivers put a little bit more fuel in, give themselves options of being out on the racetrack at the crucial time. And a difference in tyres here as we go on board with Cedric Tomei, who's decided to go with the intermediates.
Intermediates already, which would suggest that the weather is going to get better. How much better, we don't know. Will it get to dries? We've got 11 minutes left. I don't think we're going to be seeing slicks at any point, but that is a huge call for the intermediates already. But if the track is drying out, this could be a potentially wasted lap for Cedric Tomei, but we'll see. Will he come to the top of the timings? We're not sure right now. But Lucas Blakely at the top, he was impressive around Australia. He had a very disappointing qualifying, but managed to get all the way up to 5th position amongst a grid that is so closely contested, so tight. It's very impressive indeed. And as you can see, look at the lockup for Brendan Lee, the 2-time champ. It's so difficult to break in these cars, especially in the raining conditions, and those intermediate and that lockup, that would potentially suggest it's a little bit too early.
Yeah, they've all gambled in the same direction for the moment. Haddad in second place is headed back to the pits. Blakely out there with the benchmark time at the moment. 10 minutes to go. You're looking at the 2-time champion. He's always been with Mercedes throughout his career in F1 Esports, and he's heading down now to a part of the track where you just have to get the rhythm right. Not the widest turn in there. And then it's how early does he dare press that throttle? Oversteer so easy here in the dry at this corner. Pretty much guaranteed, as you saw with the moment there, as he pretty much hanging on to it. He's currently at the bottom of the timing pages, and then a chance to gather it all together. This long straight over a kilometre to the heavy braking zone. Where is he going to pitch it as he goes banging down through the gears, and he tries to clip the apex? Nicely done in slowing it down. We'll find out in a few moments' time whether it's been fast.
Absolutely. Intermediate times are the best ones at the moment. Cedric Tomei was on the intermediates, as is Lucas Blakely as well. So definitely the intermediates now, because it can change so quickly in this game. You know, it's a 25% race. They don't have the same real-time weather conditions. It can change in a heartbeat, and so these guys have to be on their toes all the time. And look how much traffic Brendan Lee has as he does go to the top of the 44.8, taking pole by 0.6 of a second for now, but he's in a lot of traffic, so I don't assume he is going to set a faster lap time this time. But at the moment, it doesn't really matter where they are on the timing sheet, as long as they're around the right area for that last lap, as Enzo Benito getting in the way as well. Brendan Lee's lap completely ruined. But for me, I'd be thinking, right, let's really time these runs to perfection now, because they want to be starting their lap with only a few seconds to go.
Absolutely, could be one of those last over-the-line deals for the drivers competing here in this super tricky, very, very difficult circuit to get right in the dry. Absolutely treacherous here in the wet. And normally they would be all over that curb. As it is for now, it's gentle, it's relaxed, but it is P1 for Brendan Lee, the 2-time champion. Crashed out of the first race a couple of weeks ago, looking to make amends. These drivers who would usually be competing in the second half of the year, getting an early call-up. Of course, a lot of them compete in other championships as well. But with this F1 Esports F1 2019 game, they are getting the early call-up. Okay, so it's Lee, Tomei, Blakely, Haddad, but the way that everyone has gone at the moment is on to these intermediate tyres, and you've got to be aware about getting the right part of the racetrack for your lap. You don't want to be too close to your teammate. If you're Enzo Benito, he's got his teammate, the reigning champion, David Tanica, directly ahead. And Forrest Frias goes to the top of the timing page with a 1:44.6. So that's the benchmark time. as he lines up to come round what is a really irritating corner. You want to get it done as quickly as possible, but you don't want to get too greedy. You don't want to do an Alex Albon and put it into that barrier on the right-hand side. Instead, he puts his foot to the floor, and he's about to head onto a flying lap.
Curves are so treacherous, as you say, Alex. Coming to turn one, it is going to feel like an age to get this front end turned in. You can screaming in second gear, now first, just trying to clip that apex. He's got Bono Huis for company just ahead of him. This corner is the most difficult corner for traction on this circuit. It's just, you feel like it's going to be planted, and then it just washes away from you. So pretty decent for Enzo Benito out of turn. I guess that was 3, and through the first sector, just a little bit washed out there through that right hander. Bono Huis gets out of the way, so he's either ruined his lap or put in a lap before, but he's down in 16th place, so he's going to have to put in the time, at least a banker at this stage. But the timings, we saw a couple of tenths separating maybe 10 people in Australia. We've got 5 seconds covering this field, so I'm not exactly sure if everyone is seeing the same screen as Nicholas Longuet. 144.3 on the intermediates. Oh, he goes a little bit wide there. And that's another thing they have to be careful of, because the strict corner cutting rules will definitely punish you for that, but I think he will get away with that. That's the one place you can run wide, and the game doesn't really slap you on the wrist too hard.
So Nicholas Longuet with the fastest time, a 1:44.3 for the Frenchman, who had such a starring role after the frustration of having to watch on the sidelines for so much of last year's campaign. He is showing what he can do. He had a second place last year, but didn't get that many races, as Holtzman goes fastest of anyone with a 1:44.2. We're on board with the Ferrari of Enzo Benito, as he's backed off there. Did he have any grip in that situation? He's going to finish the lap trying to cut the corner as much as he possibly can. Foot to the floor. Let's see if he can go on in terms of his teammate. No, he can't. So Tanitsa fastest of anyone with a 1:43. Haddad improves to a 1:43.6. But David Tanitsa, the reigning champion, laying down a marker for the rest of the field there for the remaining 6 minutes of the session. That is a fantastic time. As Sultank puts it half a second away. But that's a good buffer right now for Tanitsa.
Huge gauntlet from Tanitsa, but as I say, everything can change in these next 5 minutes and 50 seconds. I love a rainy qualifying. It can really just throw a completely mixed up grid going into this race. 25%, of course. They have damage on, no assists. This is the real deal. This is exactly what they would see in their real-life F1 Esports series. So David Tanitsa right at the top once again, but as I say, he's not safe. It's all about timing over these next 5 minutes. But if you're Bono Huis, Alvaro Carreton, Fredrik Rasmussen down in 18th position right now. He is 4.5 seconds off pole position, or the provisional pole at the moment. So there's an issue with Rasmussen's name at the moment, so we can't actually go on board with him right now. But 18th for him, that is, well, you wouldn't expect him anywhere near that bottom side of the grid.
No, Tanitsa, the driver to catch, though. He's at the top of the timing page, so work to do for the drivers at the bottom, which includes the driver that we're on board with at the moment. So 4 minutes to go as he brings it back. And well, this is fascinating, really, that the drivers have had to adapt to conditions that I don't think they would have been expecting at all. So will it be another lap, or will it be a return to the pits? It's a return to the pits for Enzo Benito with 18th position as he goes past what used to be the Lewis Hamilton gravel trap. And then, to add insult to injury, they went and tarmacked it a few years after his World Championship chances faded there. Back to the pits for the Ferrari, Haddad, and then Rasmussen, who has answered that pressure. And he is up to second position, at least he was, because Carreton has managed to post the second fastest time. And you're right, Matt, it is going to be one of those qualifying sessions where you want to be the last one in over the line. The driver's getting more and more confident. As you can see at the bottom, 45s, at the top, 42s at the moment. That's Daniele Haddad.
Absolutely. So Freddie Rasmussen up to P4. Now it's looking a little bit closer at the top. These guys are finally getting their laps together. But as you say, there's probably less practice in these conditions, and it really does bring out the best of the best. And Daniele Haddad, what a fantastic performance from him so far. But he could still easily end up 15th if it continues to improve like it has been. I think we started in the high 40s, and then we're now down to a 42. So for me, I'm still looking at Brendan Lee. He was on pole. He's now 19th. This is awesome stuff. I love to see it. And another thing that we potentially need to look at going into the race is the setups. These guys might have a dry setup on. If we have a dry race, that is. If we have a half dry race, we don't know yet. But it's 14 laps around this circuit, and that's another thing. So these guys may have just tried to get near the front, but may struggle in the race.
Lucas Blakely, who we're on board with at the moment, posted the 6th fastest time to get himself into the battle for pole. You can see ahead of him Beresnay, and then Rasmussen, Tomé, Keraton, and then Haddad the fastest. So he's trying to match his teammate as we check in with Patrick Holtzman on the outlap. And so this is where the pressure really begins. It is something very, very special. If in these conditions you can withstand the pressure and you can find the limit, that is the task ahead of them into the final few minutes of the session around this rather complex circuit with its long turn one, 3.3 miles, 5.4 kilometers, and it is that distance that Holtzman will be thinking about as he cranks it up now, and he will attempt around the 16 corners of this racetrack to get in terms of the top 5. Not quite there at the moment, as you can see, down in 14th with work to do. This really is one lock-up, one wide moment, one overzealous application of the throttle, and that is going to be the difference between the top 5 and finding yourself towards the very back. Here we go then with the flying lap, with a yellow flag out in Sector 3, but not in this part of Sector 3 as he starts a flying lap and goes over the line. Patrick Holtzman then.
Here we go then, into turn 1 again. A very, very strange corner. Nothing that you really see on an F1 calendar. We're not riding on board with them right now, so won't be able to judge his traction, but as I say, you want to avoid the curbs as much as possible. This is the most difficult traction area as we wait to see if he has spun, and there he is. So he has not spun just yet. Patrick Holtzman, very quick driver. He was very quick in the first few seasons of the F1 Esports series, but seemed to fall off a little bit last year. He had a few fastest laps, but not really anything to count, and I'm sure he'll want to, going into this next season, be right near the top, because he's got the pace. He just needs that consistency. He needs to perform in qualifying sessions like this, where he's sat in 15th. He's put the pressure on himself, and in fact, maybe hasn't timed it as well as he may have wanted with how long is left. 1 minute and 10 seconds. We've got a yellow Sector 3 yellow flag, and everyone's running very wide. I'd be slapping them on the wrist if I was the stewards, but yeah, we've got 1 minute left, and we could well see a Monza qualifying from real life, and everyone's stacked up, and a few people maybe missing out with 53 seconds left now. Enzo Benito, the one man that really has to set a time, 1:47.3, nowhere near the pace. And again, these conditions really do bring out the best.
Yeah, Enzo Benito, who was in that fantastic battle for the upper positions last time out at Albert Park, but right now staring down the barrel in 20th position. Okay, Holtzman really needs, given his position on the racetrack, to hook up this apex. He's done that. He needs this whole lap to be good enough to get him somewhere into the top 5, because we expect everyone else to improve on their green-walled intermediate tyres. 1 corner to go. How much of this curve he's going to lean on? That was nicely judged from Holtzman, who cuts the beam. Where does he go in the order? I don't think it's an improvement for him. It doesn't appear to have registered an improvement for the time being.
I'm concerned how many people are still on their outlaps with 5 seconds to go, Alex.
It's ticking down, and 3, 2, 1. Who got over the line? So we're about to find out. David Tanitza at one point hanging on to pole position. It was a dominant pole when he took it at the time by half a second. Now finds himself dropped down to 8th place. And with those outlap graphics, well, did Haddad get another lap in? Did Tomé get another lap in? Did Beresnay get another lap in? And we are about to... we can see Tomé did not get the lap, and neither did Blakely, neither did Tourmalet. Right now, David Tanitza, can he find his way back to the top of the timing page? It's where he would expect to be. The reigning champion has 1 corner to go in his Ferrari, trying to improve from 8th to at least the front row. We go on board with him. Here comes the Italian down the hill. Is it pole position? Is it an improvement? It is pole position for the time being for the Italian driver, who delivered under pressure to displace Haddad, who will be crestfallen at that. Can anyone else improve right now?
David Tanitza, this man, where has he come from? He just rocks up, wins the Pro Series last season, and he is still very much on form. A lot of drivers have already finished. James Baldwin, the world's fastest gamer, down in 10th position, 1:43.0. A lot of people on 1:43.0. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people separated by 45 thousandths of a second. I cannot believe my eyes. It's starting to get a lot closer and feeling a lot more like a Pro Series event now.
So on board with the Williams driver, currently in 3rd position on a flying lap, on a lap that looks set to count. But he has been dropped down right now by Brendan Lee, who goes over the line and goes fastest of anyone. So Brendan Lee, rapid earlier on in the session, responds right at the end. So what can Carrington do right now? Can he manage to find himself back up the order? This is his last lap of the session. Can he get onto the front row? No, but he can at least improve past Haddad. Lee, Tanitsa and Carrington, the top three, as up into second place with a last gasp lap goes Freddie Rasmussen there onto the front row. And what a frenetic and fantastic qualifying session that was. A good lap from Alvaro Carrington there to get himself onto the second row, but it is Brendan Lee who finds himself on pole position.
That is...
I absolutely love a wet qualifying. Tom, did you enjoy it?
We loved it here, down here at the desk, Matt. Brilliantly commentated, absolutely fantastic from you. I'm not a fanboy, just passionate about your work, Matt. Listen, but I tell you what, Brendan Lee, we haven't said his name too often over the last year, but saving the best till last day, Natalie.
I tell you what, that was impressive, wasn't it? When he was on pole and dropped down to P19, I was like, what's going on? This is the superstar. And just then, right under pressure, on a drying circuit, Shanghai Circuit, he delivers. And it's magnificent.
Yeah.
And can I just stress again how incredible that was to watch? The graphics are insane.
Yeah.
I've been to China so many times, and the weather is very changeable, very cold often in China. Can I just ask, how do they decide when it does rain? Can you answer me that?
I mean, it's set to dynamic, so that's what happened. That was the weather that was given because it was on a dynamic setting. And how difficult is it? I mean, because you were talking about driving lines while we were watching that. I felt like, and I don't know if you felt this, that they saved the best till last. We saw that from Bendon going from P19 up.
Absolutely, and that's what you want to see as a fan, isn't it? I mean, you look at that Shanghai circuit, you can see the drying line. It's reclaimed swampland. It's a Hermann Tilke circuit. It's one that does improve. It starts rubbering in, and that's what we saw today, and it was just fantastic to watch. And those margins, as Matt alluded to, I cannot believe how close that grid is.
I mean, that happened in Albert Park as well. There was a train towards the last couple of laps. We found them and definitely sort of finding their limits. Do you feel like they've got more confident now when they go into this actual race?
It definitely feels that way. And also, I think it goes to show with this just how important putting it on pole, or at least the front row of the grid is. We saw in Australia, P1, 2, 3, where they started. So, you know, let's see if that cycle repeats itself and we get a similar result tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned that the P1, 2, 3 finished as it stood there, but I mean, Nicolas Longui, I was surprised at how he performed there. And then obviously it does open itself up because they're so close. Matt alluded to it, 45 thousandths of a second between each other. There definitely can be something like Lucas Blakely's move from P19 to fifth again. That wouldn't be a surprise in any way.
No, absolutely not. And I think that's what's so exciting, to expect the unexpected. One thing I love about this is the change in mindset, and I'd like to talk to some of them about this. If they feel differently racing at home, you know, maybe they can just relax a bit more, just get into their zone, providing the distractions aren't there, to really deliver under pressure. And as you say, just come straight through the grid.
Yeah. Well, Matt, I know that you've been streaming a lot more. How are you finding streaming at home?
Well, it's a lot more comfortable, as you guys were saying. You know, you can chill out, you hit that potential, you can just... Well, I said my potential's nowhere near these guys, but yeah, it's awesome. At the same time, it's not great because you don't get to see anybody, but it's as close as we can get right now. I was speaking to you before we went on air about playing F1 games. You don't get the luxury as much anymore, Alex, but it's nice to just chill out, isn't it?
It's fantastic. I mean, it is making the best of a difficult situation, but the standard of racing, what happens if it dries out in this race and you've got to make your stop, because they do have to make a pit stop? This is going to be a really fascinating 14 laps coming up in a few moments' time.
Yeah, exactly. And if it rains as well, it means that they don't actually have to change their tyres at all. So we might see some people stretching it, going a few laps longer, maybe the whole race. Depends on the conditions.
Now, Matt, you say about these... this mood, this relaxing mood, but I don't see anyone chilled out here. I see people really pushing. Kind of, what hours are they putting in to this at the moment?
It's ridiculous. I can't say for every single one of them, but you know, for actual proper events with money on the line, I'd say they'd go 12 hours in a day. So it's a full-time job for these guys. They take this seriously, and why not? And even these events where there isn't prize money, but they're still trying to get the attention of the teams. So they got to be at the front.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen, we're almost getting ready for the race now. Who, after watching the qualifier, do you think is gonna pip this one?
Well, I mean, David Tanitsa, you can't say anything from the guy. I mean, he's right near the front, of course. Freddie Rasmussen as well. Brendan Lee back in there, finally. We kind of went from a phase of, oh, can he stop winning, to then, He's not winning at all. What's happened to him? Now we're quite happy to have him near the front.
I think you might have heard your commentary from last time. Here we go then. Let's see if he can convert it. Completely different conditions then for qualifying, as let's see who can come out on top at Shanghai International. 5 lights on, they go out, and we are underway for the 14 laps around this complex circuit with a good start for the pole sitter Brendan Lee. Rasmussen holding on to second place. Carreton up to third position. David Tanitsa going past Danny Bresnay there, and that's holding it at the moment. So Rasmussen chasing Brendan Lee, who's in the lead, and then it's Carreton in second position as David Tanitsa is fighting side by side. Tanitsa in the red Ferrari. Bresnay trying to find his way to the inside. Lee leads, and Bresnay trying to take fourth position. They went out early on. They're looking to make amends, and it's up to fourth position for Beresnay, who demotes Tanitsa down to fifth position on the first lap of the race, and nothing between them as they adjust now, as they wrap their heads around the fact that they're now in dry conditions, having moments earlier been in really, really sodden, wet conditions. Lee, and then Rasmussen, then Carreton, Beresnay, and Tanitsa the top 5.
Take a look as well. There's different tyre strategies. We've got the first 2, I think, on the super softs, and then you've got Carreton on the mediums. So there's a few different strategy elements going on. Carreton's definitely going to be slower than the front 2. As you can see, he's already a second behind Rasmussen, and we're not even finished this first lap. So these guys that have started on the softs, they need to get through as quickly as possible, as Beresnay lines up a move on Carreton. He needs to get through quickly if he wants to stay with Lee and Rasmussen round the outside. That's going to be an audacious move if he can make it happen. But with the traction, he gets it done.
He's going to get the inside line, isn't he, for 16th, for the 16th and final turn on the racetrack, and he's moved up to third. So good progress for Beresnay here. But look at the gap between the top 2 and the battle for the lead, and Beresnay, who had to make that move, Matt, as you say. He has made it, and now he can set about closing down that gap. And if David Tanitsa wants to be in contention as well, he's going to have to find his way through, and he knows it, almost making contact there with the Williams as they get their foot to the floor here. Key traction zone. We go on board with the Ferrari. David Tanitsa heading down to the hairpin at turn number 6. Is he going to do a Ricardo and make a late move? I think he's got the inside line. Can he get the traction in fourth place? Not for the moment. He remains in 5th.
Brilliant racing. Carreton is literally a tortoise right now. He wants to keep as many people as possible behind, especially before the DRS gets activated, because then he will be a sitting duck down that 1 kilometre back straight. But for now, Carreton doing a brilliant job. Everybody else behind him going to be absolutely fuming that he cannot get through on that Williams driver. Daniele Haddad also on the softs, lining up a move on David Tanitsa. That'll be brave, as Tanitsa is one of the last of the late breakers, it has to be said. But looking towards the bottom half of the field, you've got Yoni Tomla, Patrick Holzman, these guys struggling, but potentially I can't see the time difference right now as the Ferrari runs very wide. These guys might try a pit stop very early indeed if they're stuck in traffic, especially if they can't get through on the medium runners that will be going longer into this race.
Brendan Lee has his mirrors full at the front of Freddie Rasmussen, and as we saw last time out, battle out front, and then very, very congested indeed in the battle for fourth position. So it's almost as you were in Albert Park, as once again a fastest lap from the Red Bull. Freddie Rasmussen trying to close down that gap, trying to repeat what he did last time out at Albert Park. So Tanitsa unable to make the move. Carreton has responded after a shaky opening lap, and you can see the difference compared to 1 lap ago where he was almost being nudged through that corner. But this time they're evenly spaced, and Tanitsa's going to have to regroup and try to apply the pressure in this part of the circuit, Matt, where it is so important to have a rhythm.
Yeah, and very single file as well, unless you try a Danny Rick, as you say, into that right-hander. But the one key thing to look at now is the fact that we're in lap 3 of 14. The tyre wear is a lot quicker than a normal race, so this is where Carreton starts to come into his own. This is where the softs start to fall away. You can see Carreton closing in on Beresnay, 4/10 per second now, and looking at a podium spot. So it's toing and froing all the time because these tyres fall off so quickly. So Carreton at this stage will be quicker than the guys in front of him, but then he'll have to go on to the mediums, the softs at the end, where he'll be quick for a couple of laps and then slow towards the end. So fascinating strategy, and the undercut is going to be crucial here. Well, to be fair, Rasmussen's only 1/10 behind Brendan Lee and takes the lead.
He has gone past the Mercedes driver. You can just about see it in the distance there at turn 14. So Rasmussen up into the lead past Brendan Lee, who could not respond. His task will be to try and stay as close as he can, but it's once again Rasmussen up into the lead of this esports exhibition race, and Brendan Lee just has to stay as close as possible in the never-ending turn number 1, down from 8th gear down to 2nd, and you can see he's tempting, getting so close to the back of that Red Bull as he tries to get the power down, and he's going to try and respond absolutely immediately if he can. This is so important for Brendan Lee, because we see if Rasmussen gets out into the lead, he is so good at finding that rhythm, and he is so good at controlling a race once he finds P1.
Absolutely, and this means a lot to Brendan Lee. Don't forget, this man was nowhere last season in comparison to his first 2 championships. This means a hell of a lot. He wants to have those newspaper tabloids writing about him, but Brendan Lee is back. So, you know, he had a brilliant qualifying in Australia, P5, with how close it was, and he needs to stay with Rasmussen, who has to be one of the title challengers for this upcoming Pro Series. And I got to say, wow, as we go side by side with Lucas Blakely, another man who was very, very improved, you have to say, this season. Will he stay in 7th place? Vyers, who had a fantastic Australia, I think he's going quite slowly. In fact, I think Vyers has had a... Oh, no, they're still side by side.
There he is.
Right. He's trying to find the traction. They're both on the medium, so they both have the same amount of tyre wear right now, and this is a fantastic battle, Alex.
Vyers now trying to break the toe. That's what that dramatic move off the corner was. Now who's going to be the last of the late breakers? And coming between the two of them, Fabrizio Donoso says, see you later, the pair of them. Look at the speed they've all got there. Oh, this could end in tears as the Alfa Romeo sent it down the inside, and I think they were about 4 wide there, but it was Floris Vyers who managed to hang on to 7th position, and he managed to break the toe. Now Lucas Blakely now up, as there are many coming into the pits, so Carreton has the lead at the moment, and it's Blakely who is ahead of Vyers, and Bono Huis now up to 5th position, but it was 4 wide into the hairpin there. Look at this, fantastic stuff as they continue corner after corner, but worth saying, the top 2 have been into the pits to make their mandatory stop.
I've got a beaming smile on my face, Alex. I love to see that, especially that camera angle. 4 wide down that straight was absolutely brilliant. But as you say, we have the leaders into the pits. Where are they? Brendan Lee and Rasmussen, 11th and 12th. So they are pretty much towing themselves along. But Danny Berezne, crucially, 7 tenths behind Brendan Lee. So has he joined the battle for the lead? We will see when it all shakes out. But Carreton in the lead at the moment, the first of those medium runners. They'll probably go another 2 to 3 laps. But Berezne, interestingly, pitted, I think, at the end of lap 3, which is very early indeed, so he just tried to get with the leaders, which is a good move. You need the position, and he's now going to hope to potentially just get towed along with Brendan Lee and Freddie Rasmussen. But for now, it's still pretty up for grabs. There could be a medium runner that at the end is absolutely flying.
James Baldwin was the other driver in the mix as they had basically a late braking contest down into turn 14 and sorted it out on the exit of the corner. Blakely, Huis, and then the driver we're on board with in the Haas at the moment, Floris Vyers, in 6th position ahead of James Baldwin, and Michael Romanidis in 8th position as Fabrizio Donoso, who would have been delighted to see himself going between the two of them, and finds himself falling back then in the order. He's part of this battle, very, very keenly contested. It's Carreton in the lead, but he's yet to stop. He's ahead of Soltank, and then you've got Kiefer in 3rd place, and then Berezne behind Lee, and still out front, looking good at the moment, is Freddie Rasmussen. As we go back to Bono Huis, who does an awful lot of racing in the sim world, and he's trying to close down the Racing Point, and Lucas Blakely.
I reckon he's closed the gap a little bit to the guys at the front, Bono Huis. He's very much there or thereabouts. He was a very consistent runner for McLaren, the Shadow team, but I just feel like he's found a couple more tenths, because, as you say, this guy is a prolific sim racer. He's everywhere. Any racing game, he is right at the top of it, and F1 2019 by Codemasters is absolutely no exception. He's up in P5, he's running on the mediums, maybe a little bit off Alvaro Carreton, who has shown a little bit of potential over the last few Pro Series seasons, and it's great to see again. Is it the fact that they're at home, they have a bit more relaxation, maybe they have their favourite mascot or teddy bears or favourite drink, I don't know, but something just to calm these guys down, because Floris Vyers was a huge story from Australia. Will Carreton be that for China as they go side by side into the hairpin one more time?
So Michael Romanidis and James Baldwin side by side, and for the moment Baldwin manages to stay ahead just about as they go to turn 16 and begin another lap. Seriously using the AstroTurf there, and good run now for Michael Romanides as he attempts to move up to 7th position. And I think he's got the move done there. Nicely done as Baldwin tries to regroup and attack again. Not much in the way of time change for the battle of the lead, but I tell you what, for what could be the net battle for the lead, Brendan Lee has managed to get past Fred Rasmussen there, so that could be a change of the lead later on.
Absolutely, the net lead to Brendan Lee. But you do a lot of F2 commentary, Alex. This feels like an F2 race, doesn't it? You have the different tyre compounds and 2 completely different races at the moment.
Let's go through it, shall we? Overtaking everywhere, tick. Strategies meeting in the middle, tick. We're basically just missing Davide Valsecchi shouting something from the back of the comm box.
I think we all miss him, don't we?
It'd be absolutely perfect. So halfway through, race in the balance. We're on board with James Baldwin in 8th position, at least we were, and that is confirmation that a change of the net race lead then. Brendan Lee getting past the Red Bull of Fred Rasmussen, and it will be interesting to see whether he can close up. Good ding-dong battle between these two, and that will mean a lot to Brendan Lee, trying to answer, not criticism, but trying to get back on terms, having been dominant for 2 years, and then everyone else basically catching up. That's the problem. Catching up right now. Rasmussen, you can see Brendan Lee feeling the need to try and break the toe. It's a long, long DRS zone. You can see that gap coming down from 0.4 of a second to 0.2 of a second, but not enough at the moment for Rasmussen to find his way by. And we go back to Bono Gries, who is the Mercedes in the middle of this frenetic battle, led by Kiefer in 3rd, then Blakely, then the Mercedes of Gries, and then Viers in 6th position.
Very interesting indeed. Kiefer, he had a fantastic performance last season around China, finishing P3 for the Racing Point team. So very quick around here. Clearly very excited to race around here, just like I would be. One of my favourite tracks on the calendar. Let's have a look down the field then. So, yeah, but Jonny Tormler, Patrick Holzman, Donoso, he was involved in that 4-way fight, but now he's down in 17th place. James Baldwin, he's an interesting one because he is so quick on some games, hence being known as the world's fastest gamer. But this game, you just have to put in the hours, and I'm saying hours upon hours just to get those fine nuances, just the extra tenth that the Rasmussens, the Beresnes can find, which doesn't take just because you're good at other racing games. They're all completely different, and that's what we see. We've got Kevin Siggy, which some people may not have heard of. He is a huge in the sim racing world as well. As look at the weaving Kiefer is doing to try and break the slipstream. The stewards might be having a look at that if he continues that as Lucas tries to take P3.
Oh, he sent him into the wall! Lucas Blakely spins in front of Bono Gries, and Blakely sent spinning after Kiefer, aggressively defending the position, and in the end, it all went wrong for the Racing Point driver, sent into the wall just before they got to the heavy braking zone, so Kiefer hangs on to 3rd, but they'll be looking at that one. It's now 2nd place as Caraton has come in from the race lead in, dropping down into the pits, down to 6th position, but that was a dramatic moment at one of the fastest points of the circuit.
Does that count as my first commentator's curse? That was or premonition. I'm not sure what that was.
You have mastered it. That was aggressive, and then unfortunately, really disappointing that for Lucas Blakely, who has been enjoying this racing from home setup, and Bono Gries with Kiefer's heart rate, I imagine, through the roof at the moment. Gries keeping calm. Could have easily been taken out of the race himself from that position. So Blakely back to the pits, and his race chance is ruined.
It's a big shame. It's a real big shame for Lucas Blakely. Yeah. He's had a run of momentum. He was really looking like one of those top form guys that, just starting to get his name in the spotlight. And that's a stonewall penalty, if not disqualification for Kiefer. I can't see anything other than that, because it was purely aggressive driving for, as I say, he'd already swerved. He swerved again. With DRS open, Lucas Blakely can't do it the same way because you lose a bit of downforce, so that's why he flew into the wall. Will Kiefer have learned this time? It doesn't appear so, as he's trying to defend P2, and Sally Sautunk's still out in front. That means the Caraton has pitted. Where's he come out? Let's have a look. So he is in 12th at the moment, 1/10 behind Benito, but he's going to be quick over these next 5 laps, so he's got a little bit of work to do, but 3-4 seconds, it's doable on those soft tyres.
When will this lot choose to pit? The answer right now, with Kiefer in ahead of Bono Gries, and we now focus looking backwards right now. So this will be very interesting to see how it shapes out. We might be going back to a battle for the lead with Brendan Lee, and we are indeed going back to the battle for the lead. Now Beresnay trying that different strategy. He will be hoping for fireworks between the main two, between Brendan Lee in the Mercedes, currently holding the lead, and just 0.2 of a second between these two. We're on board with P3, Brendan Lee in the lead, Fredrik Rasmussen in P2, but it might not stay that way for very long. He will be hoping, Daniel Beresnay in third place, that this battle goes on for a few laps, because he then will be right there, and it will be a 3-car battle for the lead for victory in China, and this is high-pressured stuff for Brendan Lee.
He's holding on, Beresnay, to that DRS. He needs to stay within a second of Rasmussen, otherwise that's pretty much his hope shot towards the end of this race. He's got 1 lap older tyres. He's going to struggle for grip as we get to lap 13, 14. Right now they're in pretty good conditions. He'll be okay, but he really needs to, he actually needs to get into the lead. That's Beresnay's goal right now, and he needs to then just hold them up. But again, with the length of this back straight, do you want to be in the lead on the last lap? I don't think you do. So Rasmussen, as we've seen so many times over this F1 Esports series, all the seasons he's been involved in, he just sits there, waits. Austria comes to mind from last year, where he genuinely was pushing around people rather than overtaking them.
Is he going to go for a late lunge? Is he going to risk it? No. Lee decided to throw a shape of defence, compromised his entry into the corner. Rasmussen staying cool, staying calm, and waiting for his opportunity. He's gone past the DRS detection point. He's obviously within the second. He'll get it again now, and he will try and sweep around. Will he try the outside? Will he try the inside? The lead directly ahead, no way through at the moment. Will he try the outline? No, just sticking to the gearbox of the Mercedes ahead of the 2-time champion Brendan Lee, and Rasmussen just waiting for one slip, one mistake. As you see there, a little bit of oversteer as he applied the throttle coming out of turn number 3, and that allows Brendan Lee to escape clear, and that's the version of clear in this race. That's how tight it has been between them as they went down to turn number 6. Lee with the lead for the time being, ticking into the final stages of this 14-lap race.
What these guys are probably doing right now are just saving fuel, saving ERS. Brendan Lee might try and bolt at some point to try and break the toe, break the DRS, but for now it's just all mind games, it's all strategy. And that's what I love about this Codemasters game, is the fact that you can change so much about your car that you don't know what your rivals are doing, as that is the Mercedes of Bono Huis all over the back of Marcel Kiefer, who I need to also point out got a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. It's a bit naughty there, got a slap on the wrist, and so the steward's definitely not going to be happy with him by the end of this race. But back to the strategy, you know, they've got the ERS that they're changing constantly, corner by corner, whereas we'll see in the virtual GP later, they have it on automatics. There's less to think about. It's a bit more accessible for the guys that are just picking up the F1 game. But for these guys, it is absolute, it's everything. They're changing fuel mixes corner by corner, ERS corner by corner, and I love it. I love the fact that they're changing so much. It's probably more than the F1 drivers, really.
Well, we didn't have this a couple of weeks ago. We had Fredrik Rasmussen heading out into a league of his own, and everyone else left to race themselves. Brendan Lee, with that last gasp pole position in wet conditions, has fought back through. Lost the lead at one point, didn't lose his head, as we have seen others do in the race so far. And high-pressured couple of laps for him, with just 0.3 of a second between the leading two. Meanwhile, absolutely everywhere, you see cars filling your screen, with Kiefer in 11th, chasing down Fabrizio Donoso, and James Baldwin trying to get past the Toro Rosso in the game, but AlphaTauri in 2020. And right now, it's close, but no one able to shape for a move. So I think we're heading to drama on the last lap.
I was about to say, Alex, that train looks like tears to me, with how close they are going down that start-finish straight towards turn 1, and I'm sure there'll be a few moves with only 3 laps to go. Rasmussen 4/10 behind Brendan Lee, so as I say, this is all a waiting game, all measuring themselves up. Caraton, though, up to P3, fantastic work from him, and you have to say, probably the favourite going into these last few laps. Can Caraton... Oh, that was a little bit close, wasn't it, between Baldwin and Fires up the inside.
He's back again, back to the lead, and Brendan Lee still managing to hang on to it. But Caraton with that late stop then, with the fresher tyres, and he's got past Daniel Beresnay, as Matt told you a few seconds ago. So Rasmussen may have noted that And he knows that now may be the time to risk it all. Don't think about fuel, don't think about your tyres, think about P1. Can he launch an attack to the inside? We've seen plenty of opportunistic moves go wrong, you have to say, this part of the racetrack through the years, but he's not able to make his way through. And do we have a Williams in the battle for the lead? There you go. In P3, Alvaro Carreton, hoping that these two can create a bit of a battle. Perezne not able to close in on these guys, certainly not in the way that Carreton is. He is having a terrific run. Remember, at the start of the race, he looked like he'd be easy meat for David Tonitza, but he has responded really nicely. Back on board with the Red Bull, and he is looking for any weakness he can find in the Mercedes ahead. Could have an opportunity. Well, he's going to have a big opportunity, first of all, into the chicane, but then certainly down. And you can see running on the AstroTurf, looking for that way. Can't get it done for the chicane, but he will get DRS on the way down to turn 14.
It's crucial for Carreton if he wants to get stuck in for this race win, because right now you don't want to be third going into the last lap. So will Rasmussen... Oh, he's not close enough, I don't think, to Brendan Lee, and I don't think he's pushing either to try and get past him. He's doing the last lap shenanigans into the hairpin, I think, Alex. It's going to be very, very close indeed. Rasmussen, I'd like to see him go for a move, but I don't think we are. Brendan Lee goes a little bit defensive.
He's tapped him at the back. He's tapped him again, but he can't find his way through. Brendan Lee knew before that Rasmussen was there. He definitely knows now, but all of that messing around at the hairpin brings the Williams into play with those fresher tyres, with the softer compound, and we're on the last lap, on the 14th and last lap of the race then, with Rasmussen putting the pressure on, with Carreton hoping for fireworks from these two ahead. Michael Romanides has a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, but it's these three that we're focusing on. There's a passing opportunity to come. We've had a Red Bull in the past show us that in Daniel Ricciardo. Can Rasmussen find his way through, or is he thinking tactically? Has he gone with Matt's suggestion, and is he waiting for one of the final corners on the last lap? We're on board with P3. At one point it was Perezne, but he's falling back with those tyres fading. Now David Tonitza up to P4, and now it is all about keeping neat and tidy if you're Lee, all about picking your braking point in a few moments time if you're Rasmussen, and if you're Carreton, you've got a podium. You haven't been used to that in esports, but you can see that win. It's just 2 cars away.
It's tantalising, isn't it? I cannot wait to see how this unfolds as they're about to come onto this final straight for the final time. Brendan Lee, I don't know if he's close enough. He's going to deploy everything as Rasmussen to try and take this win.
Lee then ahead of Rasmussen. Rasmussen looking to make it 2 in a row, but that's a good exit off the corner for Brendan Lee, who seems to have left a little bit in reserve as well. The two drivers have DRS. Will there be a late lunge? There will not be a late lunge for Rasmussen, and it just means with 1 corner to go, it's been incredibly close between Lee and Rasmussen, but if Rasmussen, can he offer anything to the line? No, he can't, and so Brendan Lee will see the checkered flag, and he weaves across the line to win in China. A superb battle for the lead between Lee and Rasmussen, resolved in favour of the British driver. He will be elated with that because he was really, really made to work for that one. Rasmussen with first place last time in Albert Park, second place today at Shanghai International, and a super run from Carreton. That was a brilliant P3.
That was a brilliant race. Lee back on top. I would not have said that coming into this race, but a fantastic race. I was actually quite disappointed. I thought I was kind of hyping up Rasmussen, going to go for the move.
I thought he was going to send one.
Yeah, but then he got that bad exit through the right-hander, and then Lee was safe. So, Tom, did you enjoy that?
Oh, did I enjoy that? I tell you what, I wasn't the only one to enjoy it. Natalie enjoyed it as well down here. Fantastic commentating from Alex Jakes and Matt Gallagher. They didn't expect to have Brendan Lee win it, but it's the truth there. The P1, you're going to win the race. It happened in Albert Park last week.
I have to say, his modesty will prevent him from agreeing with this, but Matt did say to me, just keep your eyes on Brendan Lee today. He feels like he had something, and he did. Great last gasp flying lap in quali, and you know, put him in a great position for the race. Felt very sorry for Lucas Blakely though, crashing out in lap 9.
Yeah, to do with Marcel Kiefer. Obviously, not a day for the stewards. They won't be very happy with some of the driving there. But in terms of standing out, I was hopefully looking to the F1 Esports Pro Series last year. Patrick Holtzman getting the fastest lap, but that wasn't to be, right down in the bottom of the grid. But in terms of the race, it was close, but Rasmussen just didn't have enough to get past Brendan Lee.
And we really thought he was going to, didn't we? You know, he was tipped for great stuff today, but it just wasn't to be. Brendan Lee, as Alex pointed out, really putting up with a lot of pressure towards the end there, as we've seen at the Chinese International Circuit many times.
Yeah, and were you surprised? Obviously, the weather improved dramatically. I can just imagine you on the Sky F1 days, just sort of like gone from rain max straight to let's enjoy the sunshine.
That is very much what it's like in China. It's a bit like Albert Park, 4 seasons in one day. The weather can change very dramatically, but it's great because it makes for great racing.
And obviously, out of those drivers today, we expected a sort of ding-dong sort of battle between Tonitza and Rasmussen. That didn't happen. But this is why everyone's loving it right now. You've got the best of the best all competing, and it means that previous champs on the day, right track, right conditions, right qualifying, can get right up and top again.
Which is what makes it so compelling, you know. You can see guys coming from the back, which I have to say you don't see in the real sport. You can't see someone at the back of the grid coming up and taking a podium or even a win. But you do see it in esports, and that's what's fantastic about it.
Yeah, and you mentioned, you highlighted Lucas Blake. That was an unfortunate incident with Marcel Kiefer. However, the sort of standout driver today, Alvaro Carreton, and I'll say it like he always tells me to pronounce it, obviously with the Williams team going from P12 to 3rd in that race. And so it just has so many opportunities for drivers to really show what they're capable of.
It is only an exhibition match, but there's serious bragging rights at stake here. And there's a pecking order. As you say, the spotlight is very much on these guys. They know the world is watching at the moment in a way that they never have before, because this is one of the only live sports we've got at the moment, if not the only live sport.
Yeah.
This is fantastic stuff, and it gives them a window to the world to showcase their talent, and we've seen it tonight.
Yeah, obviously we're getting ready now for the virtual Grand Prix in Shanghai, so we get another race to watch. But it's been brilliant to have you on the desk. Natalie, have you enjoyed the experience?
I've absolutely loved it. It's been, I'm a convert. Done. I'm in.
Done.
I'm in for the long haul.
Signed up. Well, listen, hopefully we'll have the Pro Exhibition back. So watch the space. Make sure you're following on the F1 socials to know when that's happening. I should probably thank the commentators as well, Alex Jakes, and of course, Mr. One and Only Mr. Mac G. Matt Gallagher enjoying that. Natalie's clapping down here on the desk, just to let you know. You couldn't see that, but that is happening. Gentlemen, stick around. Obviously, I need you for the hashtag the virtual Grand Prix, so don't go anywhere. In the meantime, thank you for watching. Make sure you watch it again. And of course, make sure you are following on the F1 socials, because obviously there is going to be a competition, kind of a poll for you to get involved to say where we will be racing next. But listen, from me, thank you for watching. We'll see you in about 2 weeks' time. Hopefully Natalie will be back and the commentating crew. We'll see you then, and enjoy the highlights.
All 5 lights are on. It's all to race for.